Welcome to Dingsco FM's podcast, where we discuss individual and business growth with guests who are an expert in their field. In this episode, we focus on business growth and we discuss how marketing and branding can set you and your business up for success. Joining us as our guest is Raksha Mahabeer, a brand and marketing expert who believes that great marketing strategies help businesses to deliver real value to their customers. She works with SMEs and large corporates in South Africa to establish their brands and expand their impact. Raksha holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Media and Communications. She's also completed multiple post-degree programs that focus on entrepreneurship and enterprise development. She's a well-recognized speaker on marketing and branding topics, and she's deeply passionate about her work. In 2007, her passion led to the co-launch of her creative design agency, Summertime Creatives. In 2020, she launched another business named Raksha Mahabeer Consultancy, where she focuses on personal and entrepreneurial development. Raksha loves to connect, communicate, and inspire. Outside of her busy life as a business owner, she's also involved in other initiatives as a board member, volunteer event planner, chairperson, mastermind consultant, and mentor. When she's not in office, you'll find her spending time in spaces that allow her to cut out clutter and chaos of the daily grind. She enjoys daily walks in nature, a good swim, meditation and mindful practices, and time with her loved ones and her dog. Welcome to the show, Raksha.
Thank you so much, Diane. It's wonderful to spend some time with you today.
Wonderful to have you here, Raksha. Thanks for joining us. So, Raksha, you've had quite the journey to becoming the brand and marketing strategist that you are today. Can you please tell us a bit more about that journey? How did your passion for your profession unfold?
Sure. It has been quite a journey, and thank you for that question because it's given me the opportunity to reflect on it. My career really started out working for a small business, and I often think I couldn't have asked for a better start because, when you work for a small business, I was working for the head office of a small business that had a couple of branches. You end up doing everything. The core team or the head office consisted of maybe 5 or 6 people supporting about 12 retail stores spread out across the country. And it was a small business that allowed me to kind of really expand my knowledge in all areas of the business, whether it was playing PA to the CEO, assisting the accounts person, helping to select stock in the merchandising department, and then really truly like almost running the marketing department. So when someone says, why don't you just give it a try and see what's happening there in marketing? And I really, reflecting on it, I couldn't have asked for a better start because from there, the CEO would almost say, we need a campaign for example, for Mother's Day. And from there, not only do you have to plan the campaign, you have to design it, you have to execute it, and you've got to measure and report on it. And I mean, at a really young age with hardly any experience, it was the best kind of learning ground I could have ever asked for because it allowed me to expand my knowledge in all these areas, right down to sitting with like graphic design software for the first time ever and actually designing the campaign. So that was kind of where it started. And from there, my next role then went into corporate, where I was holding a marketing position. And from there, I truly got to understand these worlds where we're implementing marketing for small business, and then we go into implementing marketing for the corporate world, and then truly start to understand how vastly different these spaces are, but how at the core, the principles of what you need to get done are still there. So I really developed this love and this passion for delivering and working in the space of brand and marketing. But then truly the passion was ignited when I made the connect between taking my skills and expertise and then applying that for SMEs. I mean, I don't need to tell you about the absolute challenges that our country faces in terms of unemployment, inequality, poverty, and that our SMEs are going to be the ones to unlock and solve those problems, create the jobs, contribute positively to a functioning economy, and lift our people out of poverty. So if I could kind of position my offering as a tool or a conduit to help our SMEs achieve those objectives and contribute positively to the country, then we're doing something of value. So that's truly how the passion kind of clicked into place after working in it for as many years as I had been. And then at the time, it was 2007, the start of kind of launching the agency was, okay, now let's connect this skill or expertise with what the country needs and unlock some value. And that's where naturally the passion just started to unfold.
That is such an extraordinary journey, and I'm so glad you ended up where you did, starting from the beginning and growing from there. Raksha, we often come across the concept of branding, and we see it in our everyday lives, our working lives. We come across it online, and not all of us know exactly what it means. What does it mean when you refer to branding, and why exactly is it important?
Such a good question. Often, especially with entrepreneurs in our startup phase, when we are asked, what is branding? It's not wrong or it's not right. It's just the way it happens. So I'm an entrepreneur. I've started up a business, and all I am interested in when I start up a business is securing a client and invoicing. And often it's only at the end of that first month when I need to raise an invoice that I go, oh, what needs to go on that invoice? I think I need a logo. Oh, I think I need a brand. And that's not wrong. That's not necessarily the right way, but I mean, it's the way. It's realistically how it happens. And inevitably, the entrepreneur goes on a branding exercise and often simply assume that the brand is that logo. It's that logo, it's their letterhead, it's their website. But Diane, a brand is beyond so much more than just your look and feel. I am in the process of the next iteration of my kind of branding and content for my business, because I really want to shift the way people perceive and view this body of work around brand and marketing. And for me, it's almost like when you brand a business, you give birth to it. A client had said to us, oh, I'm so happy you've finally given me my birth certificate and I can go out there and function in the world. But for me, it's about everyone is going to exist. Merely existing, we need an identity document. For a business to be alive and function in the world, we need a brand. But the power of that brand is truly unlocked when we do that with intention, consciously. So to brand is to very intentionally and consciously put yourself out there, aligned to, number one, the problem that you are going to solve, aligned to a need that people have in their lives. And it is so much more than just a logo and a look and feel. How you show up for a meeting, how you answer a phone, the response times for when you send a quotation out to a client, how you close off a project, how you pitch up in the virtual world right now. All of these things speaks to your values, which eventually speaks to your culture and then eventually translates into your brand out there in the world. So without making it sound daunting, I do want to just give our listeners a very realistic understanding that if you do it well, your brand should encompass all aspects of your being as a business, and it should accurately and very succinctly present that to a potential client. I hope that makes sense.
That makes absolute sense, Raksha. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you are presenting a brand of sorts, regardless of what the behavior is that you're putting across. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I think the difference is whether you are putting it out as a consequence of your actions without really thinking too much about it, or if you are putting it out with intention, aligned to a specific response objective that you want to achieve when you put it out there.
And speaking about intention, Raksha, you've intentionally supported many different kinds of businesses, right, when it comes to their marketing and their branding. And so how does marketing and branding differ for the SMEs and small businesses that you do help versus the large corporates that you've worked with?
I think that the very quick and obvious answer is speed of implementation. Obviously, when you're sitting in a corporate world, there's hierarchy, there's red tape, there's systems, there's a lot more that needs to be followed and hoops that you need to jump through before we can actually get to, oh, let's get it on the ground and let's implement. Whereas when it comes to an SME or a small business, we are much quicker, speed to implementation, especially in the digital space, Nada. And so much of what we're doing in terms of marketing has translated into digital in the last 3 years. And in that space, there has to be an allowance for a bit of give and take. I mean, in that space that is ever evolving all the time, algorithms are changing, audiences are changing, platforms are changing. We have to allow for trial and error. We have to allow to try it out, monitor, measure, evaluate, look at reporting, try something different in month 4, 5, 6. We then look back and say, okay, when we did this, we achieved those results. When we did this, we achieved those results. And I find that in the SME environment, we're a lot more flexible and agile to allow for this fail fast, succeed faster way of doing things. Having said that, there is wonder and beauty in the hierarchy and structure of working in the corporate world. There are much bigger budgets that we're working with, so we've got to be responsible with them. It may be slower to implementation and there might be a lot more red tape, but when you do measure that return, you're doing it really well because you've taken a lot more time and put a lot more intention and planning into how you do things. I find that with SMEs, we have a lot more speed, so we can get things done quickly, measure, shift, change.
Just to tag onto that question, do you find with SMEs, as you said, there's a lot that SMEs tend to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So are there certain constraints that come with the marketing and branding?
When I work on a strategy for a client, I actually have a standard slide that I include in every one because it's called resources, because I want you to have a realistic understanding of the resources that are required to implement our marketing. Often we just go, I need a marketing budget, full stop. I either have the marketing budget or I don't have the marketing budget. And that is one aspect of the resources that are needed to implement on a marketing campaign. So there are often so many things that hold you back in terms of human resources, actual technical skills that's needed around maybe graphic design, videography, photography, editing, the actual implementation of digital campaigns. Huge skill needed there to set them up, monitor, measure, shift, change, adjust budgets across multiple brands, across multiple messaging. There are now things like social listening, drip campaigns. That world has become so complex. So apart from just a budget that's needed to kind of implement, there's a lot of additional resources that are needed in terms of creative and technical skill and expertise in order for it to roll out efficiently.
Again, looking at SMEs, we're often so embedded in our businesses. We become one entity with them. We mesh as one brand. But it is important also for us to know that there's the personal brand that you always also talk about, and then there's the business brand. And there's a lot of talk about personal branding and its importance for us as individuals. So can you explain to us what exactly is personal branding and how exactly does personal branding make a difference in our lives?
I absolutely love this question because it's a topic, especially in the last 3 years or so, that I've become particularly passionate and conscious of. I think it's definitely aligned to my shift as well into bringing more of the mindfulness stuff into the business. And for me, that is what personal branding is. It's about being conscious and aware of how you put yourself out there in the world. Diane, you're a personal brand and I'm a personal brand. The person who is mowing the lawn in my garden is a personal brand. The person who's filling in the petrol at the petrol station is a personal brand. Every person has certain attributes that are aligned to them, either as a consequence of what they choose to do in this world, or because he hangs out there all the time, that's what he's known for. Because he shares this on Facebook, this is what he's known for. Because he's always commenting on that person's stuff, this is what he's known for. Or it is intentional. It's either a consequence or it's intentional of how you want to be putting yourself out there in the world. So I really, irrespective of whether you're a working professional, whether you are running a business, whether you're a student, whatever it is that you are doing, especially with the way the digital world has exploded now, more than ever in the history of the world, there are more eyes on us than there have ever been, who can even sometimes tell you what you ate for breakfast and where you ate it, who your best friend is, which school your child goes to, what work your husband does, who your top 3 clients are. It's insane. Strangers have access to a level of information about our lives like never before in the history of time. So I really like to impress upon as many people as I can that whether you like it or not, it's happening. So if you choose to go and comment on my post on LinkedIn, if you choose to go and share a tweet from some radical politician on Twitter, if you choose to go and endorse a product on Instagram, all of those things are speaking about who you are as a person. Switch it on and be conscious about what you are doing. Often people have made assumptions and judgments on who you are and how you are and what you are based on your activity, either online or offline. Personal branding has always been there. It's just more evident now because of digital. So for me, the importance is if I am an entrepreneur, if I am a learner, if I am a student, if I'm a working professional, whatever I am, is it going to serve me to consciously build my personal brand? And is it going to serve me to build it towards specific goals and objectives for my life? So I want to be climbing this ladder at work and eventually I want to have that position. Or I want to be building my business and eventually secure this multinational client. Or I want to build my community and volunteer involvement work to eventually get this big sponsor on board. So how am I intentionally and consciously putting the right content out there, but also being intentional about the content that I engage with online because people see that as well. So people start forming an opinion of you. And now more than ever, and it's something that, and it's of such passion for me, especially for our youth in South Africa. I find that it's at that phase, now our early young adults, our teenagers are online, they are out there in the world more, and their identities are being formed. And it's very interesting for me to observe to what extent are they consciously forming their identity saying, I like this, I don't like this. I will have this, I will not have this. I will associate with this, I will not associate with this. Because it is as a choice of who they are? Or are they engaging with communities, lifestyles, movements online merely because it's the trendy thing to do? And 7 years down the line, they're looking back going, who am I? Was this actually who I was supposed to be? It's sad for me also that I see our South African youth embracing cultures outside of South Africa more than our own and forming their own identity. For example, American culture. Our youth are taking on so much of that as opposed to proudly owning who you are as a young South African, doing this or not doing this, or whatever it is. So personal branding has become a huge topic for me in my life. It's highly, highly switched on and attuned for me, both in terms of how I put myself out there, what I put out there in the world, and how it's going to be received. And I'm not to the point where I am paralyzed by fear. Oh my goodness, if I post this, is someone going to go, you're a horrible person, you killing the trees or whatever. But actually maintaining some degree of realness and authenticity, aligned to who I am, and to confidently stand in that in the world, even if everybody doesn't like me or agree with me. So there comes a degree of maturity and confidence when it comes to building out your personal brand. I do a whole masterclass on this where I take you through a 6-step process to build it out. At the core of everything is, I think as Confucius said, know thyself. Know yourself. Before you can go out there in the world and put yourself out there, know yourself so well, because before you know it, the world can craft you into something that you never ever thought you actually wanted to be. And a few years down the line, you go, how did I get there? Or sometimes that could be to our advantage. If you are following the flow of what's happening in the world, that's okay. But just make sure that it's still aligned to your values, that it's still aligned to what you want to be. So personal branding is incredibly important. If you haven't thought about it before today's chat, I encourage you to just every single time you are putting a tweet out, a post out, a comment out, sharing an article, building or inviting a new person into your network, be very intentional around how is this aligning with who I am and what I am here to do in this world, what I want to be achieving.
That is such fantastic advice, Raksha. And I'm so glad that you touched on the way that people put themselves out there, especially in this digital world. It's so accessible. Everything about you is accessible. Tagging onto that again, Raksha, there's also the converse. So there's putting yourself out there and consistently posting and creating some kind of a brand, as you said, consciously or unconsciously. Yeah. Do you find that you have situations where maybe it's your clients or that you've just observed online where people don't actually post about themselves online? So they're not even creating a presence or a brand, and perhaps that causes a struggle of some sort in terms of either attracting clients or moving forward in the working world?
I love the question because the answer is a very important one, which is something that everyone must please bear in mind. When you are building out a personal brand, the only right answer to building out a personal brand is in its name. It is personal. So what works for Raksha may not work for Diane. So Raksha may be fully happy to say, I'm going to church on Sunday with my husband and children, and this is what we had for breakfast afterwards, and the children and I are going grocery shopping in the afternoon or whatever. Whereas Diane goes, actually, I am not going to dedicate my whole weekend to letting audiences know what I'm all about. My weekends are for personal time with my family. So actually, no one's going to hear from me Saturday and Sunday. Monday to Friday, my only reason for building a personal brand is because I want people to know that I'm this expert in the business world. So I will only be posting business-related content, and I will only be posting 2 times a week because this is where personally my comfort level sits, and this is aligned to how I want to build my business. Another person may say, I want everyone to know the education system that I'm raising my children with, the lifestyle and how we eat, where we shop, our spirituality and our relationship with God, how I'm building my business. So the answer is it's deeply personal, and there's no right or there's no wrong. The only right for it must be aligned to what works for you, not something that someone's imposing on you and you feel uncomfortable about. So if, for example, I am oversharing my whole life online and it's going to give people a sense of who I am as a human being holistically, then that's my prerogative. I know whether that's going to be to my detriment or to my advantage, and how I will structure that to either close more business deals, build more deep relationships, whatever it is that's my objectives for building a personal brand. You may say, actually, I only want to secure 2 new clients for the year. So I'm going to be posting twice a week, and I'm only going to be sharing updates on current projects that I'm working on. That is entirely your prerogative. And this is where I think it's the most important message that I want to be putting out for personal brand, is that we often feel like we watch other people online and we push ourselves so far out of our comfort zone to try and be that it's not authentic anymore. It's not enjoyable anymore. It becomes a stressful thing.
It's so great to hear you clarify that. And it's really important for people to take that to heart, where it's do what's right for you. Raksha, you worked with many clients, as I mentioned earlier, individual clients, with business clients, SMEs, SMEs, large corporates. And so in that large portfolio that you've grown, and without mentioning names, of course, we want to maintain confidentiality, can you please share with us one or two of your favorite marketing and branding success stories and just tell us why it's so special for you?
There have been so many. And like you say, there's been such a diverse range of clients that I've worked with. It's something that I really love about the work that I do is that I never get bored because we're not doing the same thing day in and day out. We may be implementing the same process, but the diversity and the range of businesses that we work with is so exciting all the time. You know, whether it's a female just breaking the boundaries in the construction space 8 to 9 years ago, and then eventually equipping her with the brand that she felt confident enough to go and pitch for a speaking opportunity at an annual conference at the Sandton Convention Center, and got the speaking slot and said, I would never have felt confident to pitch to speak on this panel full of men if I didn't have this beautiful brand and I knew that I had a stand set up in the exhibition center so that people could come and confidently engage with the business. So that was a very nice one. Another client that I've journeyed with transitioned themselves out of the corporate world and also into the entrepreneurship development space. And I'm continuing to work with them up until today. And the nature of that relationship continues to evolve. So the joy for me, Diane, is when we right there at the start, when you're starting up, and we journey with you as you grow. So nothing gives me more pleasure than a client who's had their brand done and then comes back 2 or 3 years later and goes, Raksha, we need to brand a couple of buildings and we need to brand this fleet of vehicles because we've expanded into another area. We're getting this range of vehicles done. But now I need a strategic approach to my marketing. Now I'm confident enough to say, let's put the message out there and bring more people to us. So yeah, people in construction, there've been people in business services. We've had lots of fun working with entrepreneurs, designing new products and putting that out in the world. So yeah, there've been a lot of various stories, but the joy for me isn't always necessarily in, I get to do this for you. I can do your marketing strategy. I can brand your fleet of vehicles. I can whatever. It's in when I see your next level of growth as my SME. I really take you on. And now that I do quite a lot of work in enterprise development and entrepreneurship development programs on different enterprise and supply development programs, it's so rewarding to see it because they're often on a program for a year or up to 3 years. And I can journey with them through those different kind of milestones of growth. So that's always rewarding.
Those are such exciting stories to hear, Raksha. And there may be people out there, whether it's an individual or business owner, who want to share in those successes, also want a success story for themselves. They may want to get in touch with you just to continue the conversation and get some advice. So where and how can they reach out to you?
I will answer that question by giving you one final tip. The most successful brands in the world are brands that are memorable, meaningful, and consistent. So memorable, do you have something unique that stands out about you and don't feel the pressure that your product or service needs to be unique? It can be in how you do it. So that's memorable. Meaningful, TED Talk by Simon Sinek, The Golden Circle. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. So if your story and your brand has a strong why, then people will connect with it. We don't want everyone to be our clients. We want people who share our value systems and people who share our why to be our clients. And then finally, which is getting to answering your question, is consistency. The most successful brands in the world are consistent in their look and feel, in their messaging, in their service delivery, in their quality. So on the topic of consistency, you can reach me at my name and surname everywhere. On all my social media platforms, I am at Raksha Mahabeer. My website is rakshamahabeer.com. My email address is raksha@rakshamahabeer. So I am making it effortless for you to do business with me. And I hope that there's a branding lesson for all of you listeners in that as well. Make it effortless for people to do business with you, even right down to your contact details. So raksha@rakshamahabeer.com, www.rakshamahabeer.com, Raksha Mahabeer on all social media platforms. And if you want to drop me a WhatsApp, I'm very happy for you to drop me one on 082-923-5730.
Raksha, I just want to thank you so much for being our guest today. It was so wonderful to have you on the show, and you've given us so much clarity on the importance of branding and marketing and how it can help to boost both our personal and our business presence, especially in the online space. And it's really easy to see why you're so passionate about what you do, and you can hear it in your voice every time that you speak about it. And I know that you'll continue to make a large-scale positive impact on both individuals and on businesses. And I'm really excited to have you join me again in future to catch up on your brand and marketing journey and on any other initiatives that you are working on. So thank you, Raksha.
Thank you, Diane. It was absolutely wonderful getting to spend some time with you and with your community online. I hope to Keep the lines of communication open, and I wish all of you the absolute best in putting out authentic brands in the world and in marketing them in a mindful way that doesn't contribute to clutter and chaos in the world, but just truly showcase how you are able to add value and solve problems through what you do. Thank you.
We hope that you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Be sure to come back regularly for more great content that focuses on personal, career, entrepreneur, and business growth. Find out more about our coaching services and get in touch with our team by following the link in our post or visit dingscoconsulting.co.za.